Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome and thanks for tuning in. I hope that you like it here and I hope that you end up subscribing. So in this video, I'm going to be answering a question that I get literally all the time. And it's on how to make your foundation last long on oily skin in hot weather. If you know anything about me, you know that I live in Nigeria and the weather here is mostly always hot or humid. We never have like the winter, cool, autumn weather that you guys have in the abroad. No, we don't. It's mostly always humid or hot. So this is a problem that people struggle with all the time here. So in this video, I'm going to share with you guys my favorite tips and hacks that I have learned over the years to do to get my foundation to last as long as I want it to in hot weather, basically. So the first thing that I would highly recommend for anyone who has oily skin is to try as much as possible to stay away from products that are too drying. Products that are extremely mattifying, stay away from them. I learned from experience that they are not necessarily the best thing for your skin. Whenever you use a product that is very drying, extremely mattifying, sometimes for me, like literally all the time for me, but for some people sometimes, what your skin tries to do is that it automatically tries to compensate by producing as much oil as it can because it believes that you're not hydrated. And for people who have oily skin, the number one way that your skin tries to hydrate is by producing oil. So this is the reason why when you will use products that are supposed to be really mattifying, you're confused that you've gotten a lot more oily, a lot more faster than you would on a normal day. It's because the product is confusing your skin. Stay away from products that are too drying. One example of a product like this for me was the Becca Evermatte primer. That primer dried my skin out so much that I would get oily so fast and I was really confused because I wasn't really sure why it was happening. So I tried to stick with foundations that are long wearing, oil controlling, oil free, and moisturizers that are maybe rebalancing, and primers that are just oil controlling. I don't go with anything mattifying these days. One of my favorite primers for this is the Illamasqua Matte Veil. It doesn't do too much, but it just gives my skin a very soft matte feeling and it controls oil. So a product drying out your skin doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work. It might end up doing the opposite of what it claims to do. The next tip is for when you notice that you've started getting oily. One thing that I'd highly recommend is never go in with a powder to blot out the oil. Never do that. First, try as much as possible to blot out the excess oil that you have on your skin, because if you don't do this and go in with a powder straight, what happens is that your powder mixes up with the foundation that you have on your skin. So what I like to do is that I like to use a piece of tissue paper. You can use blotting paper if you have, but I am cheap, so I like to use tissue paper. So I just divide it into two and I use one half like this, and I just press this on my skin and in all the areas where I've gotten oil, and it just absorbs the oil nicely without your foundation coming off. You guys can see that I don't have any foundation on here. It just absorbs the oil, because the thing that happens when you go in with your powder straight is that it mixes with the oil that you have on your skin already, and then if you keep doing it, what you're going to end up with is a foundation that looks really cakey, and it's because it's creating this weird paste on your skin because you've just been mixing the powder with the oil. It's not the right thing to do. Try as much as possible to blot first. So the third thing that I'll highly recommend is to try as much as possible to achieve even coverage when you're applying your foundation. I see this all the time. People go on ahead to apply their foundation, then they set it with powder, but then if you're looking at them, you can tell that their application is very streaky underneath the powder. It's not. You shouldn't do that. Try to take your time out and blend out your foundation. And if you're someone who has hyperpigmentation, try to achieve even coverage as well. And the reason why I'm saying this is that if your foundation application is not even from the get-go, the minute you begin to get hot or sweaty or oily, it's only going to look worse. So try to blend your foundation out and try to achieve even coverage. It helps. The next thing is something that our aunties, our grandmas, our mommies are so guilty of here in Nigeria, because I see it all the time, is using a hanky, a handkerchief to wipe your face when you have a full face of foundation on because you're sweating. I don't understand why anyone would do that, and you never achieve any kind of good result with it. Whenever you notice that you started getting really sweaty or hot, especially if you've been dancing or doing some sort of very strenuous physical activity that has led to a lot of sweating, the first thing that you should try as much as possible to do is to cool down first. And the best way to do this is to use a hand fan and cool down. If you don't have a hand fan, try and go indoors and cool down, or go as close as you can to the closest AC in the building. But please don't go over your face with a hanky, because hankies, they are made with cotton, and cotton is not the softest fabric you would find. And when you use this to wipe your face, what it does is that every time you go over your face with a hanky in the name of dabbing off sweat, your hanky comes off your face with a piece of your foundation. And if you keep doing it and doing it and doing it, what you're going to end up with is foundation that looks patchy at the end of the day. And you don't want your foundation to look patchy. And when you cool down, try as much as possible to blot off the excess oil first, like I just said, and then try and touch up your face with a powder. But in a situation where, let's say, because of how much you were sweating, that your foundation became really runny and then maybe gave you like streaks or patches, try and cool down, like I said. Try and blot out the oil next, and after blotting out the oil, this time around I would highly recommend, because you already have streaks and patches, try to go over your face with a powder that has more coverage than your regular setting powder or a translucent powder. One powder that I like to use for situations like this is my Maxio Fix Plus powder. This is like a powder and foundation in one, so it has more coverage than your regular setting powder. Use this, just dab it gradually and gently on all the areas where you have patches. Try to use it to cover those areas up, and that's it. And the last tip from me would be to try as much as possible to drink a lot of water. I drink up to 2 liters a day. And the thing is, when your skin is hydrated from within, your skin is not trying to compensate for anything, especially if you have oily skin. So try and stay hydrated. I noticed that my skin improved a lot after I developed a habit of drinking water. So I drink as much water as I can. So that's it for this video. These are my favorite tips and tricks that I use to get my foundation to last as long as I would like it to. Feel free to share this video with anyone who struggles with oily skin, or with anyone who just has problems getting their foundation to last as long as they would like it to. I hope that this video was helpful, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.